Howdy, welcome back, y'all. Sorry, that sounds really weird for me because I rarely say y'all. But I think I need to give you all a proper welcome or greeting from Texas with a howdy or hi, y'all. I'm Kim, and I grow orchids outdoor in Texas Gulf Coast area. And I had mentioned before that I like to do an Orchids in Bloom video twice a month, and realized that many times I will not be able to do that because I really don't have enough variety to have new blooms every 2 weeks. So we'll stick to once a month, and then sometimes maybe it's twice a month. So today I'm going to do what's in bloom in my sunroom because it's a bit chilly outside. It seems that this past weekend there's one last cold spell before the spring comes. Okay, for today I'm going to start with the Phalaenopsis and then move on to a few miscellaneous orchids and then end with the Dendrobium varieties. I don't buy many Phalaenopsis because I get so many from friends and family and neighbors. I think if I didn't get them for free though, then I would definitely buy the mini ones. So with that in mind, I have some mini ones I'd like to show you that are in bloom right now. The first orchid here are two white mini Phalaenopsis, and these two are my most prolific mini phals. They have been in my collection for at least 5 years now, and if you see any of my old videos, you will spot this one very often. They have been fighting soft scale and spider mites for the past year, so they are not giving me as many blooms as in previous years. And the mother plant gave me several keikis. Some survived and some did not. I also gave one away to a friend, and now I have two original left. And I don't know which one is the keiki and which one is the mother. The plant originally came from a special at Sam's Club during a Mother's Day weekend, and it was my mother that got the orchid as a gift, and she didn't want to keep the white one, which is the mini one. And the white color is bad luck in Asian culture. It is a color of death or mourning, and it is a color that families wear during a funeral, so it's not considered good to have white things in the home. Anyway, she knows that I don't really care about that, but I do respect it by not giving someone who honors that sort of believes in tradition by not giving them white things. So, but I'm glad I took this white mini phal. Personally, I love white flowers. Okay, next I have this gorgeous yellow one. I purchased it last year from a local well-known grocery store here in Texas that is called HEB. I noticed that I don't have a yellow one, and I really would like to have one. So it was on sale one day, and I brought it home. And I grow all of my mini phals in semi-hydro with clay pebbles as the media, and sometimes a little moss on top for the straggling roots, or the parts of the exposed roots, I'll put a little moss on it on top. And I have a video on how I grow Phalaenopsis, so I will put a link in the description box if you would like to look at that video. Okay, next one, I'm going to go to this fuchsia looking one. It's really healthy. I got this one a year ago from my friend Peggy, who lives in Long Beach, California now. She was moving and from here and could not take all her plants and gave me this one. She couldn't remember what color it was, and but now we know. I really love how beautiful the color is, and how just so many blooms in two little spikes. Thank you, Peggy. This is lovely. Okay, next one is also a rescue orchid from my sister. She was done with the plant and I gladly took this one because it's a miniature one. And it's giving me two little bloom spike, but I think it will regain its health by next year and will give me some profuse bloom as the other fusion one that you saw. Okay, the next two that I have are giant size Phalaenopsis, and I call them giant size because they took up so much room so far. And I hesitated on taking these two orphans. The first one is from a neighbor named Jeannie that lives across the street. She's an older lady who doesn't grow any orchids, and she was looking for a new home for this one. After about a month of keeping it in her kitchen window to keep it alive, she realized that I grew orchids, so she brought it to me this past summer, and then I transferred it into a larger pot. And when I say transfer, I literally pulled it out of its pot and then with the entire root ball intact, and put it into a larger one because it was in one of those clear, soft plastic pot, and the roots were just bulging on the sides, and it just looked like it was miserable in that clear pot. So, and I didn't have time to repot the entire plant. So after the blooms, after it's done blooming this year, I will repot this correctly in probably wood bark. Now you see the spike. I know it's just causing the plant to be bigger than it really needs to be, or taking more width and space than it needs to be, because I was so lazy. I didn't I didn't put a stake on the spike. So when it had gotten out of control, and also the bloom spike just grew so quickly. I remember seeing the little nubbin one day, and then next thing you know, it shot up. And yes, you guessed it right. It is hard for me to find a place to put this plant. It's currently sitting in my sunroom where there is a high shelf, and I can still enjoy it from the living room. Okay, the next one is also a rescue orchid, a regular large size rescue orchid from my friend Deirdre. And if you're seeing this, Deirdre, thank you. I really, really like this one. She didn't know what to do with it after it bloomed, so I took it in, this one also. And the leaves were really interesting when I got it. It tells me that the blooms would be spotted. See how mottled these leaves are. So when I got the orchid, I soaked it right away in water and then repotted in wood bark. And I'll tell you more about that later, why I used wood bark and not clay pebbles. Deirdre also did not remember what color and what the blooms look like, and now we know. So thank you again, Deirdre. It's just lovely. I'm so glad I adopted this one. I love the pattern. It's just so beautiful. And these are the two new leaves that I grew on the top right here. I snail ate up one of the old leaves at the bottom. Since these two Phalaenopsis are so big, I grow these two outdoors, and that's where one snail came and got this bottom leaf of this Phalaenopsis. Also, you'll notice that I am not doing semi-hydro with these two Phalaenopsis since I'm growing it outdoor. So I'm using wood bark instead. I still have not repotted the Genie orchid yet, so I'll have to do that in wood bark. This next one is has been blooming since Valentine's Day, and it is Slc Hsin Buu Lady, and is one of William's rescue orchids. And this one is going to need a repotting this summer. It's already growing out of the pot. Okay, the next orchid that's still in bloom from last time is a Vanda called Kuwaldee Fragrance, and the flower starts out very pale pastel color, then it turns a little deeper purple or bluish, And then, and I lost 2 of the flowers from a really heavy wind the last couple of days when the orchid was outdoor. And this one's got a long name. It's an Epidendrum Pacific Amarillo times Epidendrum Pacific Challenge variety Big Mango times Pacific Maryland Princess. So basically, pretty complicated hybrid. As the bloom opens, it is a very brilliant deep yellow, and then it fades as time goes on. There are a few more buds on the top of the tip of the blooms here. That's yet to finish developing, and the blooms should last a long time. I remember it bloomed for me this last summer, and it bloomed and it stayed for, I think maybe at least 2 months. So I have 3 different colors in this basket. When I put the pot here, I'm hoping, when I put all 3 of them in a pot here, I'm hoping that it's for long-term housing for this orchid. It is in wood bark, so I will need to repot it next year. And if you're a long-time viewer here, you might remember that I got these 3 from Carmela Orchids online from Hawaii through a commemorative special honoring William Youngblood. He was a longtime customer there, and the owners of Carmela, Sheldon and Pearl, they knew him very well, so that's why they had a special. The next one is Dendrobium Blue Twinkle, and it's still in bloom from last month. I get a feeling that there's a hint of spider mite on this orchid. I'm going to do the cleaning with hydrogen peroxide or alcohol today, and then I'm going to spray some neem oil. There's a few other orchids I have to do the same thing to. And I see tiny yellow scarring on here. That might be from mites, but not to confuse the yellow powder that I've seen all over on my plants lately. It's yellow dust, and it's from a pollen, and it's everywhere, even on my car, on furnitures. It's live oak season here, and there's a yellow pollen everywhere, all over the place. And the rain recently, thank goodness, had washed a lot of it down. And you know, those of you who live in Texas know what I mean. Okay, I think I have all. Let's see. Yeah, I still have a couple more dendrobiums to go, a few more dendrobiums to go. This next one is a it's a 2 latorias that I'm going to bring out. Well, actually, let me bring out this one first, Microchip. This one is not quite in bloom yet, but it's got 2-3 bloom spikes coming up. It's a little bit late blooming if we were to compare it to the other 2 Latoria type that I have. And I did get this plant last year in the spring when I visited Sunset Valley Orchid. I lost a few of the older leaves, and probably from stress of transitioning from the wonderful greenhouse weather at Sunset Valley Orchid to my really hot Texas heat. And I bet you probably I've lost some of the roots too from repotting. So, but you know, bare canes on latorias are still good because they can still bloom, as you can see right here. So still continue to feed that area, you know, where the bare canes are. Let's see, the next one I have is Dendrobium Mini Snowflake, and I really like this one a lot. Unfortunately, it looks like it does have a little spider mites already, and again, I have to do a regimen of hydrogen peroxide and then neem oil. And I'm going to do neem oil, you know, a few days after I do the hydrogen peroxide, because I noticed that if you treat too many, give too many treatments in the same day, it's just too stressful for a little plant to handle. Okay, the next one I have is Dendrobium Royal Chip, and this one I did get at Lowe's, I think, just this last year. So this particular one is a first-time bloomer for me. I've never grown royal chip before. Let's see, the next one is Dendrobium brachiosum times Tani, and you've seen this, oh my goodness, for maybe four, and what's in bloom now, and it's still in bloom. Some of the blooms did shrivel and fell off, and I think it's mostly because of the repotting situation that I put it through. So let me tell you the torture that I put this poor orchid through. So I got it this year around December or January from Carmela, and it's so used to that nice weather, you know, in Hawaii, and then it had to be shoved into a box, and it arrived still in pristine, beautiful condition with aerial roots everywhere, just really pretty. And then I repotted it in sphagnum moss, and then I unpotted it at the end of the summer because too much algae developed, and then I left it unpotted for 2 months because I couldn't decide what to pot it in while the spike is developing and while it's in bloom. And then just recently, I think about a couple of weeks ago, I just potted in very fine bark because it loves moisture, so I might as well keep it in fine bark. But this would be a good plant to put in water culture. Mounting is probably the best though, the best option for the fine roots, but then I don't think I'm going to be able to keep that watered every day. I think next two Dendrobium I have are sneak peeks into what's in bloom next time that we do this. And I'm so super excited to show you these two, and I hope that the blooms will continue to develop. First one, Dendrobium loddigessii. And there are specks of red all around the leaves because of sunburn. I was too harsh on this little thing, exposing it to too much bright light during the winter months. And I think I was probably too harsh on all the deciduous dendrobiums. And I don't think it requires that much full sun that I had given it. And I also probably shouldn't have given it such a severe drop in temperatures like I had been doing the last couple of years. I have a feeling that it would still bloom without that hard treatment. I think I'm going to try being a little more gentle to it next year. I did repotted it last week. It was in the original sphagnum moss for probably 3 years, and I also separated a few pieces and placed it on a cedar plank, and I'll probably going to show you that next time that we do what's in bloom, because there may be a few kings on the division that may bloom as well. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you some of the little buds in development. And when you see the little growth on the ends of the king, it's more than likely that these are keikis. And the buds are normally in the middle of the king, like the one I show you here. Let me see if I can take some pictures and show it to you. It might be easier to see with a zoomed in picture. You know, the cedar plank that I was talking about earlier, this is what it looks like. This one is Dendrobium aphyllum, and I've grown this one for 5 years now from several tiny keikis, and the keikis may have been almost a year old. It takes about at least 3 years to grow to blooming size. The first year that I got it to bloom, it had about 3 buds, 2 of it blasted, and so basically I only had 1 bud that actually bloomed. And then the second year that I got it to bloom, it had much more flowers, and you can find that video in my video library. And this is the 3rd year that I've been able to bloom it. Let's hope all the buds will stay and not blast. I had it out in the cold a couple of nights ago and realized that I shouldn't have done that. And the blooms don't last long, so I'm going to put this in the kitchen and enjoy it as much as I can when the buds open. And honestly, I really like looking at this exotic plant even when it's not in bloom because it's mounted like this. It makes it fun to look at. Even my kids, my teenage kids, say that they like looking at it and it looks cool. And I have a video on how I bloomed this in the past last year, but I plan to do another more updated and refined video on how I bloom these deciduous dendrobiums. So stay tuned for that. I may talk about how to maintain this plant. There's just a few old canes that are shriveled that need to be cut. It's pretty easy to maintain plant, really. It's not too hard. Okay, and that's basically all I have for this video. I hope you all have a good week, and take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.